suggest. Okay. Okay, so here we are. We are getting underway. Perek Yud Dalid and Sefer Breisheet. We're learning together once again. And we are up to the section of Avram Avinu having won the war, essentially with the guerrilla force. We saw last time that at the end of that war, the different power players, King of Sodom and others, come forward in order to have a dialogue with Avram Avinu. We saw last time the medrash, a very, I think, striking medrash, that they build some kind of a stage in that area. I showed you the map of it last time. If you recall, in the area of Emek Shaveh, we think it's in the area of the Dead Sea. So in that spot, they want to crown Avram Avinu to be some kind of king of a new empire. And he's not interested. And we talked last time about how it is that Avram Avinu realizes that using power in order to get his message across is ultimately counterproductive. You cannot bring people tachat kanfei hashchina to have a relationship with Hashem if that relationship is going to be predicated on the use of the sword. Of course, in striking contrast to various other religions who laid claim, oftentimes, not a few times, oftentimes, to doing whatever they were doing, violence to other peoples, subjugating populations, conquering territory, going on crusades, whatever it was, the dress up of it each time was, we're doing this in the name of God. And this is to promulgate our view. And therefore, we'll just push forward. Avram Avinu says, I'm not interested in that. And the part we were up to when we concluded last week is that, in fact, this mysterious king, Malchitzedek, who comes from the town of Shalem, we saw last time that Rashi, based on the Gemara, Masechet Nedarim, tells us this is Shem ben Noach, that Shem ben Noach was obviously exceedingly old, and that he was the standard bearer from a traditional perspective. This is our contention, that he was the standard bearer of the tradition that he received from his father, from Noach, who in turn was carrying a certain mantle that came all the way from Adam Harishon.
Rabbi,
yeah.
Before you get into that, what about the fact that Abraham is going with 318 men? Okay, are we supposed to think that they're all great converts, or that they all believe in it? I mean, his whole household, in a sense, has been converted. So if they don't have a choice, why shouldn't he take the power and try to spread it? You don't have to spread it by forcing people to convert, but you could influence them by becoming king.
True enough. And your question is a good one. There is a fair question to be asked, which doesn't really have an answer. Was there a middle ground that Avram Avinu could have taken?
Yeah.
And was there a lost opportunity here?
Yeah.
I'm left with the same question.
Okay.
Could there have been a middle ground? What did Avram Avinu see about the impossibility of fusing his ideas about there being one God in the world, about the fact that God cares about morality, about the fact that, you know, there's a personal relationship with God, etc. So is all of that impossible to be fused ever with kingship? I mean, for those of us who are studying together, we're learning together on Thursdays, we're learning Sefer Shmuel Bet. So we know very well that it's a complicated issue. But obviously there was some separation of powers even in the time of the Torah, the time of the Nevi'im. We see that there is a king and there's a Kohen Gadol. They're two separate people. And you could say a king and a Navi and a Kohen Gadol, three separate people. And then a judiciary, that's a fourth group, right? So all of these are somehow necessary for the running of statecraft. Like, why didn't Avram Avinu just say, okay, I'll be the king, Malchitzedek, you'll be the Kohen? Not clear. A worthy question for sure. What did he see about why it was not possible? Or maybe it was a failure on Avram Avinu's part. It's possible as well.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
it's interesting you say about the king being an influencer, but it doesn't always work that way.
Meaning?
In ancient Egypt, you had Akhenaten, who threw out the old Egyptian gods. He was the pharaoh and set up a one god system. Now, he called his god Aten, but it was still a one god monotheistic belief. And he couldn't change anything. It lasted only as long as he was alive. And the minute he was dead, it went right back to the other way. You can't impose from the top down once people have a very deep set belief. So
point well taken.
Abraham might have been smart enough to know that.
Very, very, very likely. By the way, there was someone who would try further along in Jewish history, not too long after Avram Avinu, who would try to move a bit in that direction. I don't want to get off topic to him, but who is it? Who almost tried to impose that, or at least bring the people along to that from a position of power? Anybody remember?
No.
Yosef. Yosef.
Moshe.
Before Moshe. Yosef.
Yosef.
Yeah. Yosef tells the people at some point, there's a very strange idea. He tells them they have to have a Brit Milah if they want to get food from the storage houses, from the stores. And then the Pharaoh over there is telling the people whatever he says, and without him we'd be dead. So whatever he says to do, to do. Why did he care if they had a Brit Milah or not? Some kind of a ritual ceremony. So Rav Soloveitchik has a whole essay. I think it's in the book Vision and Leadership, which is a profile of Yosef and of Moshe, where he talks about how that was the idea. Yosef thought, I'm going to bring all these people on side. God didn't put me here just for my health. I'm obviously here for a purpose beyond the physical sustenance. And he doesn't know yet, of course, Yosef, what's coming in terms of the exile, and therefore the need for people to be brought down to Egypt, and that was really the plan. So he's wondering, okay, so what's the plan? What am I doing here? Oh, maybe the plan is I'm supposed to make a new nation out of these people and make them into monotheists and build some kind of another either parallel nation, or it is the nation. It's not clear. But there's, when you think about this, was in the air.
What about, okay, Brit Milah and the belief in one God is different from if he had taken over and tried to put some ethical stuff into Sodom so that you don't kill people because they show up.
Okay, so that's going to be our $64,000 question as we get further along in this. Right.
Rabbi,
as we get closer to the world of the destruction of stone, we're going to have to deal with that. Wait 1 second. Karen had her hand up, and so did Debbie.
Okay, I was just going to say, as we read about Abraham, who's before Moshe, and then we're studying the kings that come after, you understand why the Torah ends with, and there will not arise another one like Moshe, because he was the one who did it all. He did it all.
I mean, he wasn't successful at bringing Egypt to become monotheistic.
No, but he was both the leader and the executive branch. He did the Navi, the court. It was all embodied in one person.
Well, I would say a little bit further. He actually relinquished each of those things over time. Right. Remember?
Yes.
Right? He's being told, well, it's not just going to be you as the main judge. We're going to have a judiciary. God tells him, right? Yitro suggests, and Hashem says, okay, let's get a judiciary. Remember?
Like a juggler who then tossed balls off.
That's it. He's going to be the Kohen. He's going to be the Kohen at the beginning. Then, no, it's going to be your brother Aaron. But the 7 days of inauguration, we just read about a number of weeks ago in Parshat Tzav, those 7 days will culminate in, you're handing over the reins to your brother. The Navi, you hand it over to Yeshua as you're leaving the world. That one he didn't relinquish in his lifetime. But he was happy to do so. Actually, Parshat Balotcha, when Eldad and Medad are prophesying, Moshe is saying, it'll be good if other people were also prophets. I like that. That's good.
That's why there's no one like him. That's one of the reasons there's no one like him.
Thank you. Debbie, go.
I thought Rabbi Leaptag hit the nail on the head the way he's inclined to do last week when he said, the story, I couldn't help but write it down. The story of Sodom is related to why Abraham was chosen. First, we become a nation, then we get the land, which, you know, a lot of the questions we've raised have to do with why didn't he do this? Why didn't he? Because that's first we have it in our head that we have to get the land first, but the real issue is we have to become a nation first.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go into it a little bit. The encounter with Malchitzedek, chapter 14, verse 18. Perek Yud Daled Pasuk Yud Chet. I know I'm doubling back, but we want to see the whole speech of Malchitzedek, and I can't see it. We can't see it unless we've actually looked into the actual psukim. So Malchitzedek Melech Shalem Hotzi Lechem Vayayin V'hu Chohein Le'el Elyon. So we describe this person as being the priest or the minister of the supreme God. So the supreme God really could also be interpreted Kel Elyon. The word Kel, Aleph Lamed, refers to some kind of power or force. The Ramban here points out that all of the ministers would all serve some kind of angel. And they call these angels Elim, the mighty ones, the strong ones, like Mi Chamocha Be'elim Hashem. So, Kadosh Baruch Hu is called Kel Elyon. And this means to say that whatever people understood or didn't understand or misunderstood about the notion of there being powers, spiritual powers running the world, the point was, and this is very much to the Ramban's notion of a federated system in Shemayim, as opposed to the Rambam's view, which is very much, it's Hashem and it's us. The Ramban had more of a federated view, that it's us and Malchut Shemayim, the heavenly assembly, of which Hashem is at the helm, but there are angels that he has appointed to do various things. Now, it's not the Rambam didn't believe in angels. We've seen inside, I hope people have seen inside, beginning of the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah, of course he believed in angels. Malachim are created by Hashem. They're metaphysical creations. They're not physical. We've talked about this many, many times, different contexts. But the idea here for the Ramban is, within the understandings of the world that people had at that time about Hashem, instead of Malchitzedek being known as the Kohen of Hashem, of the one God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, some such thing, he is known as the God, the priest of the supreme power, supreme force. And therefore, the idea was that he was venerated even amongst his peers, against as opposed to other kings, as really being this great power, this great luminary. So he came from Shalem, which Chazal understand is really Yerushalayim. Its original name was Salem, Shalem, then connected with Yireh from the Avram Avinu story. We'll come to that later, but that's Shalem. Vayihi Shalem Sukom Oto B'Tzion, a pasuk in Sefer Tehillim. So many of the commentators pointed out this way. The Ramban, the Ralbag, the Ibn Ezra, the Radak, everybody basically goes in that direction. And he took out, we saw last time, bread and wine. Rashi writes, Kach osem liyigiei milchama. This is what you give to weary warriors. That it shouldn't be a feeling of consternation on the part of Avram. They should think, Shem Ben Noach is very upset with me that I killed his children. After all the people who came from Mesopotamia were all Semitic. They all came from Mesopotamia, all these four kingdoms. So the Medrash, however, points out, Ramazlo alamanachal anasachim shikravu sham banav. He hinted to him about meal offerings and wine libations that would be offered there. And what's interesting is, just looking at Rashi on verse 18, pasuk Yod Chet, on the level of Pshat, it's that there shouldn't be a blood feud. So to give these gifts that Malchitzedek, aka Shem, gave these gifts to Avram Avinu was to say to him, I'm not upset with you. I know you did what you had to do. It was a defensive war. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is. So this is a peace offering. Alternatively, he's telling Avram Avinu, he's revealing something in a hint to something that will happen many, many, many ages later, which makes it much more along the lines of a Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim. And then it says that he is this type of priest. To Kel Elyon means that he was a monotheist. Gene, to your point about that pharaoh that people speak about that had some kind of monotheistic leaning, you see that's true here as well. This is a monotheistic king, but he's in the middle of his town. He has not really ventured out to promulgate his ideas, to spread his concept about there being one God. Rather, he's sequestered in his place. He stays home. Yeah. So the fact that he stays home. Pardon?
You need to mute people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feedback.
Yeah. I'm muting over. Sorry about that. Okay, I muted everybody. Apologies. If you want to speak, raise your hand digitally or otherwise on the screen, or just unmute yourself and try to get my attention. But I'm muting it because there's too much distortion. People moving around in the background while I'm talking. Okay, now back to what I was saying. So there's a dialogue that transpires between Malchitzedek and Avram Avinu, and now we're up to the part that we're learning something new today. Pasuk Yud Tet, verse 19. Vayevarcheu vayomar, Baruch Avram lekel elyon konei shamayim va'aretz. There's a blessing that's offered. Sorry, I'm just muting whoever is calling from 6698. I muted you. Please unmute yourself if you want to speak. Otherwise, just leave it muted. Otherwise, it's like creating distortion. Okay. So he gives him a bracha. Vayevarcheu vayomar, Baruch Avram, and blessed is Avram lekel elyon konei shamayim va'aretz. That's how Shem ben Noach referred to Hashem. Hashem to him is Kel Elyon. That's the language that he used. What is Konei Shamayim Va'aretz? It's like, says Rashi, Kemo Osei Shamayim Va'aretz. The maker of heaven and earth. Al Yedei Asiyat and Kna'an Liot Shalo. A person who makes something acquires that object to belong to them. There's a principle in halacha. The principle is, within halacha, if a person has an object, one of the ways that they acquire it from someone else is by taking it into their possession. Another way is that they have somehow, if it's land, they can encircle the land. Another way is through a writ, but one of the ways is called to be kona b'shinui. If you transform something, you acquire it from a legal perspective. And what's interesting is that this is true when we speak about this is true when we speak about a thief. It's very strange. When a thief steals something, obviously you have to give it back. But from a juridical perspective, in terms of what's owned and what's not owned, what's controlled and what's not controlled, there is an idea that you could be koneh, you can acquire it, the thief can acquire an object by a shinoi. They've transformed it in some way. Now, it doesn't mean they don't have to give it back, but it means that they've somehow acquired possession in a different manner than if they're just holding on to it. They're called being koneh b'shinoi.
Rabbi, it's
Yes.
Helen.
Hi, Helen. Helen, you were going to say? Helen? And we lost her by accident. Okay, I don't know. Okay. Helen, if you're still out there, feel free to speak again. I'm sorry. I saw you on the phone, but I don't know what happened. Okay. The bracha that he gives him right here, why did he refer to Hashem as the Konei Shamayim Va'aretz? Simple answer is, no, it's very nice. Hashem, you're blessed unto you. You are blessed unto God, the one who owns heaven and earth, right? But why did he specifically reach for the notion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, who is the one who made heaven and earth?
To contrast with what the others were saying about Abraham,
Right.
that Abraham's an Eved. He's not.
He's not a demigod.
Exactly.
He's got a lot of power, a lot of capability, but he's not a He's not a deity. Oh,
Right.
Helen, are you back on the line? Can you unmute yourself? You wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
I got lost somehow or other, but we say Haisha Niknes. And so that is a Kenyan in the same kind of vein.
Yeah, but it's not a Kenyan Bashinoi necessarily. Maybe not. There's a big discussion, but you're quite right to talk about it in that terminology. Is it an acquisition, but in the sense of a connection now? Right.
Right, well, a Kenyan, but
you're
more than that.
By God making the world, by God creating the world, he owns the world. That's the point. And to Karen,
Right.
what Karen was saying a moment ago, the whole concept that he's trying, that Shem Ben Noach is teaching the people there, they're all assembled in Mekamelech, a lesson. Who owns the world? Hashem owns the world. What? To the victor belongs the spoils. Yeah, but
Right.
not really. Really, still everything belongs to Hashem. La Hashem ha'aretz u'ma'aretz. It's Shem Ben Noach's version of it. Blessed is Avram to the Kela, to the supreme God, who is the owner. He is the owner, not Avraham. Hashem's the owner of Shamayim and earth. By making it, he acquired it. Shelley, you wanted to say? Is that saw your hand?
Yes. What if God? Okay, we use the term Kael, which is the term that the Canaanites would use for their gods. What if it's a different God in the time of Abraham for the Canaanites, as it's going to be later? They don't use the term Baal. Perhaps this is not my idea. I don't know if the person who gave me this idea would want me to use their name or not, so I'm going to just say it in
Leave it
general.
out. Right.
That it's that the Canaanites at that point believed that there was more of a federation of gods, and that Kael Elyon is sort of the head of the federation, and that he's got lesser gods underneath him. But the morality is such that Abraham can work with them. Later on, they're going to come from the north, the Hittites, the idea of Baal, which is much more immoral. And therefore, later on, when they come back into the land after Moshe, they cannot work with the Canaanites anymore.
Right.
Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility. I don't want to go too far afield because I want to stay kind of on the page. But what you're touching upon is one of the challenges of the use of language in the service of religious ideas. And what I mean by this is already at the beginning of the Torah, really in the first few chapters, there's already a problem that is described that Chazal touch upon as a signal of things going awry, practically. What the signal is that at a certain point in history, we have the profanation of the name of Hashem itself. So in other words, even though we'll use the language of that the name of God, Yud Ke Vav Ke, refers to God in our definition of it. By our, I mean those of us on this call. I mean those of us who are part of Judaism, those of us who have understandings about Hashem based on the Torah, etc. But because you're using a word, the word is Hashem, the word itself can be profaned, can be made, call it secularized. It can start to just become putty in the hands of whoever you would like. So I'll give you the example. I'm looking for the pasuk. Using the wrong chumash for it because there's almost no words on a page. I'll flip 20 pages to find the exact pasuk. Give me 1 second. I will locate it for you. And this is a good example. In the days of Enosh, described in the Torah, Perek Hey. Did I miss it? That was in Perek Hey. I remember my Perek numbers. Hold the line a minute. Yeah, sorry. The end of Perek Dal, the last pasuk of Perek Dal, chapter 4, verse 26. See the last word, the last words in Perek Dalet. Az huchal likro b'shem Hashem. Then they started calling out in the name of God. Az huchal, then they started. but Huchal is also the word Melashon Chol, like Kodesh and Chol, sacred and profane. So Rashi here, right here, quotes from Chazal that it means that in this day already, people started invoking the word God when it has no when it has no application rather to God himself. Started naming people and objects with the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. But the question is, did the same thing happen with regard to the reference to Hashem as El? The demotion of the language of Aleph Lamed, the name of God, which is Kel, God as the force, became secularized or profaned or made into something idolatrous. And therefore, the idea in the ancient Near East, there would be whole swaths of people that referred to their idol by the name El. I mean, in the profane sense of El. They
Rabbi?
Helen, please go ahead.
Okay. The first commandment in the Seres HaDibros, do not place other gods before me. And Kel Elyon. This opens up a very, why is there a deference to other gods?
So that's a question you're up to in the second of the Seres HaDibros. Why should it say I don't have other gods before me? Why don't you say there's no such thing as other gods? I can't go into that.
So
now. Sorry, it's a great.
I know, but the Kel Elyon gives you some.
Okay, now we're going all the way to Shmot. I'm staying in Breisheet, but your question is a great one, and all the Mefarshim ask that exact question in Sefer Shmot in the second of the Seres HaDibros. That is exactly their question. We only have about 15 minutes left, and I still want to go a little farther in our Parshanut. So if you don't mind, you'll indulge me. I hope that answers the question somewhat, Shelley, I was trying to address, which was the question about your question about the use of El in the ancient Near East as the name of one of the gods. By the word Baal means master, right? So also they would refer to Hashem as the Eibishter. They use the word, he's the Balabus, he's the Baal, but pretty soon there was an idol named Baal. It was a convenient way to help slide people away. I think Debbie wrote it this way. It comes as slippery in modern times. That's exactly it. It becomes like we're going to use religious talk, but its definition starts to become much, much shakier. I'm going to mute you again. Helen, feel free to unmute yourself for other comments. Karen, you had your hand up. Oh, you didn't? Okay. All right, moving right along then. Okay, so Shelley, I don't know if that answers your question, but the idea, you could have read these psukim on the level of pshat that Malchitzedek is a person who is not actually, he's a monotheist. He believes in Kel Elyon, but he believes in the God that is at the top of this pyramid of gods, small g, but that he's coming out. Now, what Chazal did here, though, is Chazal understood. Again, they have a tradition. It's the Gemara Nedarim, Daf Lamed Bet. This is actually Shem ben Noach. He's so undercover, he has to refer to God as the Kel Elyon. Lahavdil Alfei Avdalut, and since it's the date on the calendar today, right? People like to say today, may the 4th be with you, which is some kind of oblique reference to Star Wars and to the Force. May the Force be with you. So it's very rare they've ever quoted Star Wars in a shiur. But what did Star Wars do? It created a totally new polytheistic religion of some sort, in its own system, where what's controlling everything, what's at the helm? The Force. So what is the Force for us? God is the Force. We want to be careful with saying that, because then it's like, oh, you're reducing God to like something in a sci-fi movie. I figure now that there are like whatever it is, 9, 10, 12 movies or something, most people know the references that I'm making here. Yeah. My point is, it is a desacralized use of sacred terminology, if you will, that can be used very easily in the service of some kind of pagan religion, which of course Star Wars has many milas, for good versus evil. There's a lot of different nice things there, but there's also a whole pantheon of pagan things going on in that story. Between the sand dunes and the stars and the spaceships and the shooting, there is a whole, they don't talk about Hashem. There's no God in that, right? The Force, may the Force be with. But so you could say, well, what is the Shem Elokim? What is the name of God that is Elokim? It's the Force. Hashem is the sum total of all the forces. So you want to say Hashem is the universe? Now we've hit what's called pantheism, the collapsing of God and creation. The Bore and the Bria, Chazal teach us, the Torah teaches us, are separate and distinct. Is there no relationship? No, there is a relationship. Well, what is that relationship? And this is what Hasidus is doing all the time, right? And there's some of the critique of Hasidus that it veers too close to seeing the hand of God becomes aspects of God. What does that mean? And then you get into polytheism, etc. Okay, we're way far afield on this analysis of Shem ben Noach. I have 12 minutes left. I want to be mindful of the time because I have another shir coming up. Karen, you wanted to say, please.
Very briefly, the difference is that the force exists within the universe. It's not a force that's outside.
Fine. Yeah, very good.
So that's,
and it's trapped. It's part of, right. It's an aspect of the universe, like a part of nature almost. Yeah, okay, fine. And if you know, okay, fine. I'll stop there. But the idea here is that Chazal have a tradition. This is a guy who's undercover. He has a title. His title is Malchitzedek. And what did he say? He blessed him, he's setting up for everybody there. Me and you, Avraham, we believe there's only one God. And that God is the creator of heaven and earth. Uvaruch kel elyon, asher migein tzaracha biyadecha v'yitain lo maser mikol. There's two things going on here. One is the end of the sentence, and then is what actually happens, the giving of a tithe. Now, before we get to the second part, just look at the second part of the sentence. This is also quite a declaration, because it goes with the pasuk before. Verse 19, blessed are you, Avraham, unto God on high, the supreme God, who is the maker of heaven and earth, and therefore the owner of heaven and earth. If you stop right there, you know what you have? You have the God of the philosophers, a God who created the world, but the watchmaker's theory, he's not involved. He could care less about these ants, to his perspective, called human beings. So says Shem ben Noach in Pasuk Chaf, the next verse, and blessed to the mighty God, or the supreme power, supreme force, meaning Kel Elyon, the God who is supreme, who did what? Who basically helped you win the war. He's involved. Here are two different statements about Hashem, both of which are the crucial elements that make up the first of the 13 principles of faith of the Rambam. Ani mamni emunah shlema, I believe with perfect faith. Shabore yitbarach shemo, the creator, may his name be blessed. Who bore umanhig, he's the creator and he's the director. That's right here. And this is a very important point because it's the second half. First part is God created the world, right? But the made the world, owns the world. Okay, and then the idea of of being involved in the world is particularly even on the battlefield, which you would say is a completely human endeavor. Why do wars start? They didn't come from Hashem. These people went up against those people in the power structure and but Hashem was involved in the whole thing. I forgot to mention previously, there's a very intriguing comment of the Rashba. The Rashba writes that koneh shamayim va'aretz, that koneh means not just to make, but as milashon, a kan, like a kan tzipor, like a nest, like an incubator. The koneh shamayim va'aretz means that Hashem has, like the nest, is there to be an incubator for the growth of the chick. So too did God make a preparation for the world to exist by creating the initial material and then to put everything in its place, but that it develops, so to speak, with the rules that Hashem set up, which would dovetail nicely with the second part here, which is, and therefore you think that Hashem is not going to be involved in the world? No, Hashem yigein tzarecha biyadecha. God, we acknowledge, I acknowledge, we should all acknowledge the degree to which Hashem placed those four enemies of yours in your hand. Vayiten lo maser mikol. Who gave who some kind of tithe? Rashi writes, this is Avram Avinu acknowledging what Malchitzedek has said, accepting his statements, thanking him for his statements, and acknowledging that Malchitzedek is a Kohen. He's a priest. He's one who serves. Before there's a notion of a kahuna, the Kohanim, as they're mentioned in the Kohanim, as they're mentioned in the statements of Sefer Shmot and onward, right? You have this this idea that no, in fact, you have the Kohen before you have a Kahuna. Who's a Kohen? One who serves Hashem. Look in this 19th chapter of Sefer Shmot. What do we have in chapter 19 of Sefer Shmot? There'll be a Mamlechet Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh. Rabbi Liebtag spoke about this last week as well. He often comes back to this. Debbie just wrote in to everyone, if you didn't see it, the perfect image of this for me is an IDF soldier at the Kotel. Beautiful, beautiful image, modern image, right? In the manner of Avram Avinu. Who gives the tithe? Avram Avinu gives a tithe of whatever he has to Malchitzedek Melech Shalem. Why? Because he's a Kohen. So Avram has to show us, to pay him homage, I'm giving you a gift now. Not everyone agreed that this was the case. Not everyone agreed. But rather, some say that really what happened was that even though it seems he gave him, it doesn't say who, that it might be actually that Malchitzedek gave a gift to Avram Avinu. That Avram Avinu was being crowned or anointed here in this speech by Malchitzedek to actually be a person who was also going to serve as a Kohen. Shelley, you wanted to say, sorry. Go ahead.
Can I unmute me? Okay.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. If so, if it's Melchizedek giving to Abraham, what does it say that Abraham accepted, or it doesn't say that he accepted? Because later on it's going to say, I won't take anything, but you can give my friends that came with me, let them be able to take stuff. So it would be totally different if Melchizedek is giving to Abraham as opposed to Abraham giving to Melchizedek is Ma'aseh Avot Simon Lebanim.
Yes.
But the other way around, wouldn't that show sort of like that they do believe somewhat in the same God? For him to take something, since for Abraham to take something from Malchitzedek, he won't take anything from the king of Sodom.
Right, but that's the point is, and this only bolsters Chazal's point, that Malchitzedek Melech Shalem is not just some guy. He's actually Shem ben Noach, and minimally, he's a person who shares Avram's monotheism. And the concept of monotheism that he has is there's a one God who actually created heaven and earth and is the same God who's involved in wars. The point of Avram Avinu here, based on what you're saying, is Avram doesn't want to take from Sdom because Sdom is immoral. But Malchitzedek Melech Shalem is moral, and that's the difference. And
yes, but you're dealing with somebody that's hundreds of years old. I have a lot of problems whenever you put somebody that's hundreds and hundreds of years old in the story again.
Okay, fine. So I accept on the level of Pshat, that's not what it says. On the level of Pshat, it's another guy whose name is Malchitzedek. But let's go with the level of Pshat for a minute. If you go with the level of Pshat, the Malchitzedek is someone else, not Shem ben Noach. Still in all, the statements of this person, Malchitzedek, dovetail with the theology of Judaism. One, that there's one creator of heaven and earth. Two, that creator has not abandoned the world, but is very much intrinsically involved. With that entree, says the Radak, in the name of his father, Rabbi Yosef Kimchi, the Avram Avinu was willing to accept a gift from Malchitzedek because by accepting it, he was essentially saying, I accept what you stand for. But if and I accept your influence. But if he's going to get it from the king of Sodom, who is an immoral, wretched person, then, and he's going to say so. We're going to get there, right? Everyone's read ahead, I'm sure. He's going to say, you're going to say you made me rich. Now, does he really mean financially rich? He already was very wealthy. Or does it mean something else? More than just financial wealth, but some other kind of wealth. So here in this moment, Vayitin lo Maser Mikol, the idea, according to Rabbi Yosef Kimchi, is Avram did not want to take even a shoelace from the king of Sodom, yet he was willing to take from Malchitzedek, because Malchitzedek's point to Avram is, from a juridical perspective, now that you won, you're allowed to take. Vayitin lo Maser Mikol was Malchitzedek teaching Avram Avinu, you may take 1/10, a tithe rather, but don't take anything from the king of Sodom. Right? The idea is, right? The idea is he was perhaps warning him, don't go near that guy who's coming next. And it's the next pasuk, verse 21 is already, the king of Sodom is going to chime in also, right? Some of the Rishonim say sorry, actually, I misrepresented a little bit the Radak. The Radak, quoting his father, was not that he actually literally gave him a tithe. he told him regarding the tithe. Vayitim l'maseh mikol, he basically said to him, you may accept a tithe. You're worthy to accept a tithe. He didn't literally hand it over to him, but he gave him a heter that he could take a tithe from the people he had saved. Vayitin lo means he gave him permission to take a maser from all. That's the Rabbi Yosef Kimchi quoted by the Radak. Other Rishonim quote it the other way. Other Rishonim say that really Malchitzedek actually literally gave this to Avram Avinu. Who's that? That's the Chizkuni. That's Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina. That's the Riva, the Bali Tosfot, who read it as Avram Avinu actually receiving something in his hand from Malchitzedek Melech Shalem. Two different ideas. But neither of those like Rashi. Rashi holds that actually Avram Avinu was showing his acceptance and his servile nature in a way to Shem ben Noach by giving him this paying homage to him. If you look on the screen with me very, very quickly here, as we say goodbye. So I thought it'd be interesting to see. I have a few things that I think are fascinating, but this is one of the most fascinating, I think, among them. Vayiten lo maser mikol. This is the Meshech Chachma, Meir Simcha Cohen of Dvinsk. Here's what he writes. Vayiten lo maser mikol. Al derech remez. It was a hint. Yitachen ki heim divrei Malchitzedek. It could be al derech remez. It's not literally what's written in the Torah. Literally, someone exchanged something with someone else or told him something. But here it could be that it was part of the speech. Baruch kel el yonah shemigin tzerecha biyadecha vayitin lo. Blessed is the supreme God who has placed your enemies in your hand, or defended you, putting your enemies in your hand. Vayitin lo, and he gave to him al Avraham. Shashem Barach Natan lo maser mikol. Really, in doing this, in this war, Hashem has given Avraham, not that it's the close quotes in the middle of the sentence, but rather read the whole sentence together. Blessed unto the supreme God who has given your enemies into your hands and who has given him, meaning you, Avram Avinu, a tithe from everything in the world. Maser mikol hainu shivat umot. Hashem has given you 10% of the 70 nations of the world. Chilik asirim shivim. Remember, there are 70 archetypal nations of the world, from Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel, at the end of chapter 11. So here, what's 1/10 of 70? 7. Therefore, Sdom and Amor and everything that's within it belong to you as well. This is the way of prophecy that oftentimes begins in the second tense. Right? Talking to Avram Avinu, but still in the moment of prophecy and in the moment of the bracha, it switches to the third, because it's as if I'm projecting here. It's as if Shem ben Noach lifted his eyes heavenward, and may he be granted, or through this he was granted 1/10 of everything that exists, of everything that was created. I.e., of the 70 nations, there will be now 10% of that will go to Avram Avinu. Now, no one's arguing, not the Meshech Chachma, that this war is how Avram Avinu acquired the rights to the 7 nations. Nothing of the sort. It says al derech remez. It's a hint that this is actually what transpired. But it's very interesting, because what the Meshech Chachma answers for, which is a bit clunky otherwise, is how is it that there's a speech going on in verse 19, continues in verse 20, ends in the middle of verse 20, and then there's like some extra piece. It could be that way. Most of the Farshim did read it that way. Meshech Chachma says, what if the words Vayitim lo maser mikol is not what someone did, but rather what Avram Avinu was hearing from Shem ben Noach, what Shem ben Noach was saying to him. And I see it's 10:02 and everyone has to go to a class, so we better cut out now together, other things to see. Let's get together, God willing, later this week. For anyone who wants to join us, Soul of the Siddur, tomorrow 9 a.m., Thursday morning 9:30, the Navi Shir. And let me wish everyone a great rest of the day. And you're welcome to join us also for Tillim together tonight and every night of the week at 7:50 p.m. Have a great day, everybody.